In this video, we're going to be going into a little bit deeper dive of the gutter machine. So we're going to show you the switch over from 5 to 6 inch. Our gutter machine has the ability to make 5-inch gutters as well as 6-inch gutters. We have a Ironman KWM, and that's a 5/6-inch combo. So this machine has the ability to do both. Now there is a decently long process from getting it to run a 5-inch gutter to running that 6-inch wider gutter, and we're going to be going over a complete tutorial on how we would switch that over and then how we would run out the new size. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so the first step of action is going to be obtaining all of the tools that you're going to need to take this machine apart and assemble it back together. So we keep all of our gutter machine tools located in this bag. It is the second drawer from the top to show you guys a little bit better. These are just kind of some random tool drawers. So this drawer says attachments and bits, and then the next one is right here. So that's where all of these tools are located. All right. This bag is something that they send you when you receive your gutter machine, and I can show you guys a quick tutorial of what's in here. All right. So now that we have our bag here, let's go over what's inside of this. So we keep a carpenter pencil in here for any reasons that you would need it. We have our socket. All right. Now this is set to the size that we exactly know. 95% of the bolts on this machine are the same, so this socket will fit that. All right. We have this mini rivet screwdriver used for removing, well, you guys can't see that, used for removing these rivets or bolts right here. We have 3 different size Allen wrenches, 1, 2, and 3. Now, I don't think this one gets used, but these two get used a few separate times. We also have here a few extra bolts they give you. All right, and then 2 wrenches, same thing as the sockets, but if you can't get the socket in a certain place, the wrench might work a little easier. This wrench right here is a socket wrench, so I picked this up to make things a little bit easier for us, so it spins around. All right, and then like I said, just a few more bolts and extra parts, and that is about it. So, all right, so the first step of action that we're going to take is we have to get this old coil out of the machine, because right now you can see it's being fed through and it's going all the way to the front of the machine. So we got to cut this off, and then what we do is we actually run out this extra piece, and then it kind of goes to waste. 95% of the time we can actually end up using it for a different job as long as we keep it in good shape. So when we're running out, take it, throw it in the storage unit, and then whenever we have a job that we know, hey, we're going to be using a 12 to 13 foot 6-inch white run, we'll take it, throw it in the truck, and then whenever we get to the job, we'll already have that piece ready to cut out. We'll cut it to the angle or to the size, and then we'll attach it in the house. So first thing we're going to do is remove this old coil. I like to use these bigger scissors. So these are our big sheet metal scissors. So you can use these, or you can go ahead and choose a different pair of snips, such as these long straight cut snips. So either one of these works. Personally, these are a little bit smoother, so I like these a little better. But these are they're a little bit easier to hold and bigger, so it's kind of whatever you prefer. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it with these. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut a straight line directly across the back of this. We're going to try to make it as straight as possible, so that way when it does run out, it doesn't turn in the gutter at all or go on a weird angle and get caught. So go ahead and cut all of these off. All right, so now you can see that is disconnected from there. All right, and if I move this over here, you can see that is a pretty straight cut on that piece down there to connect the next bottom. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next step. All right, so now that we have our coil cut off down here in a straight line, we went ahead and we taped off our coil here. This just allows us to move this around a little bit easier and keep it with that same shape. So when we go ahead and add it to the cradle next time, we don't have any issues. All right, so now that we have our coil cut off, we are ready to run out this next run to get this old gutter out of here and move on with the next step. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna grab our extension cord and we're gonna plug this in. All right, plug that in. All right, and then the next step is going to be running out this old gutter. So, there's a video on how you guys operate this machine below. So if you're having issues with it or you don't know exactly what to do, watch that video first before you go ahead and do this. So I have flipped both of them to run and forward, or jog and forward, my apologies. And we're gonna go ahead and run this gutter out. So. I'll actually show you guys in a second what's going on. Run this out. Okay. So what you'll see is you're gonna start to see that the gutter actually got a little bit loose there. So it's very simple to remove this. All we're gonna do is take our hands and we're just gonna pull it lightly like that, and then the old gutter is removed. So now that we have the old gutter ran out, it's very important that before we work on anything with this machine, we unplug this cord, and do not just yank on this. Hold your hand on the one, take your other, unplug the machine, and then we'll move on. All right, so the first step of action that we're gonna take in switching over this machine is we're gonna unloosen these rivets. So it's very simple. It's just a half turn. We're just gonna turn it this way. Good. Take this one, turn it this way. Good. And then we're gonna do this across the entire machine. So there's 4, and there's 4 more, and then there's 4 more back here. So there's 1 here, 1 here, 1 back there, 1 back there. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so let's go ahead and remove all of those. So once you have all these rivets loosened up, you can actually pull off these covers. All right, so what I like to do is just to get them out of the way, I'll just set them on our shelf over here with all of our materials. I'll put one over here, take the other one. Also on this front right here, there is a little latch. So in order to get off this front plate, you're gonna need to pull up on this, let down, and then slide it free. All right. Fold that up. This comes off. Same thing, set it right here. And I'm putting all of these on the shelf right here. All right, so now that we have everything uncovered, we're gonna go ahead and we're going to start with our first step in actually switching over the machine. So step number 1 is we're going to remove this face plate, as what it's called. This is what the gutter runs out of, and the guillotine is also connected to this. So this is how you cut the gutter off. This is actually a pretty easy process. So we're going to take our socket here, and it should automatically have the correct size socket on it because this never gets changed. And we're gonna loosen up this bolt down here, this bolt down here, and then there's a bolt underneath the guillotine right here, as well as on the other side right here. So we're gonna take off this bolt, 3, 4. All right, so let's go ahead and loosen these up. All right, so now that we have bolt 1, 2, 3, and 4 all loosened up, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna remove these. So let's use our hands here once we get loose enough. All right, so now that we have loosened up all of our bolts, 1, 2, 3, and 4, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna remove these. So just twist them out with our hand. Same thing with this one. Some of these you're gonna have to loosen back up again because the way this face sits, some of them stay pretty tight. So, all right, my phone died in the last video, but we got remove this screw, we remove this screw, we remove this screw, and then we remove this screw. So now we're gonna take our 4 bolts and we're gonna put them somewhere where they're not gonna move around a lot. So there's a little compartment actually in this middle of the machine that I like to put most of my bolts. So we'll set them right there. And then we'll go ahead and remove this faceplate. All right, so we have all the bolts off and removed. Now this is loose, so we're gonna go ahead and don't pull it up by this piece right here. You're gonna grab the guillotine by this left side of the handle, grab the right. All right, so now you can see that we have these little scraps right here. These are caused from when you pull down on the guillotine and you cut the face of the gutter off. It makes these little scraps. All right, so let's dive into what we need to do in this machine before we put the new faceplate back on. So there's 3 steps when removing or changing over the front of this machine. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move this one. I believe it goes backwards a little bit, and then this one gets flipped around. So if we're facing this way, it's gonna be facing this way now. And then these 2 bolts get loosened, and these wheels right here move down. So these 2 sockets get moved, and then these 2 sockets get moved down. So we're first gonna loosen up this one. All right, so now that we have removed our first socket, I'm gonna show you guys something inside of here. So you can see that this says 5 and 6 inch. So we're currently on 6 inch, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put this socket back in the 5 inch position. All right, so we have our 6 inch and our 5 inch. Like I said, we're gonna be putting it into our 5 inch one, but we're first gonna remove this socket because when we try to put this in here, it's not going to be able to sit in the correct position if this one isn't removed yet. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use our first Allen wrench of the day. You're going to be using this smaller size Allen wrench, not the bigger one. So there's 2 screws, 2 red screws that are located inside of here. Those just loosen up. This is a little tricky to get to because your hands are a little tight with everything around you. So we'll go ahead and get this first bolt loosened up, and we'll go ahead. All right, so I just got this one loosened up here, and for some reason my video stopped again. So now that we got these 2 bolts off, they're gonna look like this. They're little red bolts like that. Make sure you guys can see. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take this and we're gonna pull it backwards and pop it out. Like that. All right, so this is what the socket looks like. Okay, so it was facing like this for 6 inch with this circle open, so it's facing this way. Now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna flip it this way so the circle actually goes inside like that, and then we have this flat backing. So this is 5 inch, this is 6 inch. Go ahead and put it back in that same position like that. Push it up, make sure that we have it tight, and make sure that we can see that this middle point is flush. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and we're going to take these 2 bolts, like I said before, and we're gonna put them in our little compartment over here. That way they can stay safe and not get damaged. All right. Now we're gonna take our original socket and we're gonna put it back in the 5 inch position. It was in the 6, so we're gonna put it back in the 5. 5, 6. All right, take it. We have our bolt right here. All right. tighten that down with your fingers, just so that you can hold it in place for a minute. And then we're gonna go ahead and finish up our last step of this. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna loosen these 2 bolts. You can see that this lightly says 6 right here and it says 5. So 6 is the higher, 5 is the lower. So go ahead and loosen these up. You don't need to remove these bolts, you just need to loosen them enough to where you can slide these 2 sprockets down. So you can see that right here there is it says 6-inch and it says 5-inch. There's also a little engravement of a line of where this should sit. So make sure when you tighten it, it's not this way. Make sure that it's flat on both sides, because you want to make sure that when this gutter comes out, it runs it straight and not crooked. So we're gonna switch our wrench back over, tighten up our one just a little bit to make sure that it's still flush. Tighten up our other one just a little bit. All right, then we'll move back to this one. Tighten, tighten. All right, so it's secure. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add in our 2 red bolts back to this sprocket and then tighten this one up. So we can see our sprocket down here, and like I said, we had flipped it from what it looked like previously to the opposite. So we flipped it from this side to from the other side. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take our red bolts right here and we're gonna twist this until we can figure out where these bolts are actually supposed to fit. So set one in, twist it around in a circle slowly until you see, oh, okay, this one got in, so it grabbed. All right, and then we're gonna tighten it up with our hand a bit. That way we can just hold it in place. Use your finger for a minute. All right, and then you can use your Allen key. And this is a pain because there's so many parts in here that when you're turning it, you're gonna have to do things a little bit differently than you normally would. So for example, like your Allen wrench, normally you would torque it like this. A lot of times you're gonna have to torque it like this because you can't, this is gonna hit something, it's gonna hit a piece of metal before you get inside of it. So, all right, so now that we have everything in place in the front of the machine, we can move on to the next step, but let's just recap what we did. So we went ahead and we flipped this plate around and then put these 2 screws back in. We moved this plate from here, moved it over here, tightened that back up, and then we moved this from the 6-inch position down to the 5-inch position. So we moved it from right here down right here, and we tightened this up, we tighten this up, and we tighten this up. All right, so now let's go ahead and remove the guillotine so we can add the new faceplate on. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is remove the guillotine from the gutter face. So the faceplate, what this guillotine does is it runs down like this, and you can see that this is moving in here. So this actually chops the gutter off of the machine. And this is how we cut it off to get our proper length. What we do before, every time we use the machine, we take WD-40 and we spray on the inside of this lip. This is Oil Blade Daily. That's to just keep things, running smoothly and keep the blade sharp so it doesn't get worn out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these 2 pins right here and we're gonna pull up on this just like that, and we're gonna pull up on this just like that. All right, and go ahead and move this thing over, and we're gonna pull this guillotine off of the faceplate. All right, we're gonna set this to the side, and then we're gonna go ahead and grab our 5-inch faceplate. All right, so now that we have our guillotine removed, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take this faceplate and we're gonna switch it with this faceplate. So this faceplate will always be down here next to the bin of rags and garbage bags. So we can go ahead and we can actually fit it through the side right here, and then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put that one back. So now we've got our faceplate here. I'm gonna show you guys how we would reattach this and move on to the next step. So first, I'm gonna show you guys a problem that we have. And probably about 75% of the gutter trucks that have this machine or this Ironman machine have the same issue. So you can see here that we have a little bolt that's in place, and this actually holds the gutter machine or the gutter faceplate up, because right here it fits into place, so that way it locks in and it doesn't move, so it's a lot easier to screw, and you're not trying to hold it up while you're screwing at the same time because it's a pain in the ass. So our solution to that is, when we put this faceplate on, I usually set my socket right here and what it does is it raises this side and keeps this side level, so that way I can get it on there, get all the screws in, and then I'll pull this out and then I'll attach it. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna place this right here and show you guys what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna take this and put this on here like so, and you're gonna want to put it in that hole that is supposed to be there. So you can see as of now, it is not actually reaching all the way back there. So I'm gonna lift this up, push this back down, make sure that we're good on both sides and we're flush, okay, like that. And then we're gonna check, okay, that these holes match up. So this one does, and this one could go a little bit over to the right, all right, and this could be raised. So I'm gonna know that when I put this bolt in, I'm gonna have to push up on this a bit to get it in. So I know it's kind of a pain, but that's how we're gonna have to do it. So I'm gonna go over here and grab our 4 bolts that I set over here earlier. Like I said, put them in that middle thing because you're gonna drop these and they're hard to find. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put this one in first. So I'm gonna try to do this so where I'm not blocking the camera. I'm gonna put this one in. See how I'm holding up on this? Get it in the best place you can. All right. And then I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna add this bottom one over here, so that way I can just knock this side out. So I'm gonna lift this up again a bit so we can see that it's in place. All right, so now that we got this bolt on and this bolt on, we can go ahead and remove the socket. All right, and then we're gonna add our top bolt up here. All right, so now we got all 4 bolts on. We can go ahead and we're gonna make sure that these are all flush, okay? So these 2 things, it's not gonna be exactly flush, it should be about a 1/16 of an inch short and a 1/16 of an inch short. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna tighten these up. Wrong way. All right, here's one. And it's not tight, it's probably too loose to start with. All right, that's on there. Like this. And make sure when you do this, you don't crank on them too much because we don't want to strip the bolts. So, but it's gotta be tight, but not too tight. This one is tricky over here with the wall, so we can go a few more times at it. Alright, so we got that on there. Those are all secure. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to attach the guillotine. Alright, so this next step is very important when we're doing the gutter switch over, because if we don't do this properly, we're going to mess up the gutter no matter what. So when we see this guillotine here, you can move this up and down, and you can see that this plate is moving up and down, and this actually cuts the gutter off. So when it's up, it allows the gutter to run through, but if it's closed, it's gonna stop. So when we run the machine, if we attach this guillotine wrong and we don't put this all the way back here, when we attach this on, what's going to happen is it's going to come like this, and when the gutter runs out, it's going to get crunched, and it's going to mess up the whole machine, and then it's a big ordeal, and it takes a long time, and I've done it enough times to know. So when we put this on, it's very important that we do this one way and one way only. So we're going to take our guillotine rotator here, and we're going to put it all the way back as far as we can. And then we're going to take our guillotine, and it has holes that match up with these ones. So we're going to place it on here, all right? Making sure that we drop this down as far as possible. Like I said, we want to make sure this guillotine is as far back as we can get it. All right, and then we're gonna line up these two holes. Come on. Like that, all right? And then we're gonna take our pins that we put back there and we're gonna insert them into these holes like that. There's one, then there's two. So, like I said, now you can see that this guillotine is all the way up, and when we bring it down, it's gonna allow us to cut that properly and then bring it back up here how it should. All right. So moving on to the next step, you can see here that these are little like wheels, or that's what they look like to me, wheels. So what they do is they guide the aluminum through the machine so that way it can form properly. So you can see that there's 13 of these. So 1, 3, 13. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, I'll show you that one again. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So what we're going to do is, with these little things, is we're going to come back over here, and I'm going to show you guys. So right now you can see that they're pushed out. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop up this pin like that, and we're going to push these in. So we want to make sure that when we push these in, we pull on this and they don't come back out, because there's little locks in there that lock them in place. If we don't do this right, what will happen is this thing will actually move back out, and then it'll mess up the gutter. So pop this up, push this in. All right, there's two. Move on to the third one down here. A little hard to show you guys this one. Pop it up, push it in. There's 3. Show you guys this one after. There's 4. So you can see that one wasn't in all the way. So you're going to rotate it a few times, push down on this pin, and make sure that it's in. There's 4, 5. Rotate it a few times, push on this. Make sure we can get it in the right spot. 5, 6, 6, 7 is right here. Push up. 7. See, it's a little tricky. So, like I said, you got to make sure that these are down and in all the way. There's 8. There's 9. There's 10. There's 11. 12. And the last one, 13. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All right. So those are all over. Now we'll move on to the next step. So now that we have all of these wheels properly in place, we're going to move on to the next step. So you can see there's these 3 things here. I don't know what these are, but they make the gutter for us. So again, this is the same. This is for the 5-inch. So if we were doing the 6-inch, it would look like this. And then if we're doing 5-inch, it would look like this. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take this pin and we're going to pop that one. 1, pop this one. 2, pop this one. 3. Make sure these are all in. Make sure they're all in place. Push them in. 2, 3. All right. Make sure they're not going to move. All right. And that's it. That's all it is for that step. All right. Moving on. So we just took care of this and we fixed the wheels. So now we have this bar here. So you can see that it has these little locks. So it allows us to actually loosen this and push it over. So this is the 6-inch position. The 5-inch position is pushing it this way. So you can notice that everything is getting pushed inwards. And what that's doing is actually just it's minimizing the size of the machine, so that way it can pull the gutter closer together for that 5-inch versus the 6. So there's 1 bolt, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to loosen all of these up, not remove, just loosen them up and then push this bar over. All right, so we're going to take our socket here, and like I said, we're going to loosen these up. So turn this, and we're going to loosen them, but we're not going to remove these, because if we remove them, then we're going to have to put them back in place, and then it's just a headache for no reason. So loosen that up a bit, enough to where you can almost turn it with your fingers, or turn it with your fingers, but loosen these up. All right, there's 2. All right, moving on to our third. Yeah, this one down here. All right, 3. Then we have our fourth one over here. It's a little hard to do with one hand holding this camera. All right, so now that we got those all loosened up, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna push this bar over. So what I mean by that is push in, and you can see that it's not moving over, so that means that I didn't loosen up these bolts enough. So I'm gonna set this down for 1 second. So now that we have all 5 bolts loosened, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, we're going to take this bar and we're going to actually push it over, and you can see that it's going to pull this way. All right, so there's 1, and we're going to move back here, and just because it looks like it's moved over, we still want to come over and push these all the way. So there's 1, there's 2, there's a third one, it's all the way over, and you can see that when I push this over, it's going to hold in place, but it's going to want to try to move back a bit. So we're going to make sure we push this in, and then we're going to tighten it up. And when we're tightening it, we're going to want to hold the bar with our left hand all the way over, and then tighten with our right. So I'm going to set this back up on the tripod and show you guys. Go ahead and tighten this up. So we're going to take our one hand and we're going to push over on this bar like so. Take our other one and tighten this up. All right, like that. Again, pushing with our one hand. We're going to take this and hold the bar tight. These need to make sure that these are really tight, because if they're not, this bar is going to move around and it's going to mess us up. So tighten that one, tighten that one. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to tighten this third one up. Again, making sure that when we do this, we are pushing on this bar. We're pushing on this bar to keep it in place. So that's the third one. All right, moving on to the fourth. Right here. Pushing on this bar again. So you see it just moved over a little bit, so it wasn't all the way in place. All right, 4. And then our last one. So again, making sure that this is all the way over, which it is. We're going to go ahead and we're going to tighten this one down. All right, so that's all 5 of those tighten back down. We're going to move on to the next step. All right, so now that we got this bar pushed over and we have the faceplate attached and we have these dropped and we have the wheels pushed in, we're going to go ahead and remove these wheels down here. So it's a set of 4 wheels. It's on one bar, and we're going to be switching it with this one. So this one says 5 and the other one is labeled 6. So I'm going to set you guys up and show you how we remove that. Actually, before I do, I'm going to just show you the bolts. So it's 2 bolts. It's this one right here, 1, and the other one is a little bit tricky. It's in here. So it's 1 and then 2, and this again is located on the front of the machine. So 1, 2 bolts, and I'm going to set you guys up to show you. All right, right here, medium size, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to loosen this bolt up right here. All right, just loosen it, spin it, take it off. All right, and again, take your bolt and we're going to set it right here in this little thing because it's not going to go anywhere. Now, this one is a little bit tricky because you can't really turn the Allen key a certain way, so you got to use it like this. All right, and when you do this, you can cut your finger a lot of times on this little circular part in here. So I'm going to make sure we're doing this, do it carefully. All right, so loosen that up, and then we're going to hold this. I'm taking my hand, I'm going to hold the bottom of these wheels, so that way when I do remove this, it doesn't just drop down and fall down there so I can't get to it. So we're going to loosen this up, the Allen key a bunch of times, then set it to the side, and then use your fingers. That way you can hold it afterwards. Again, take your bolt, set it in the compartment, and then remove this, and this is what you're left with. So you can see, and again, this one's labeled 6-inch right here, and then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna swap it with our 5-inch. So, all right, so now we're gonna head over here. Located in the middle of the machine is the 5-inch wheel set, whatever you want to call this thing, and this just loosens up right here, okay, and comes off, and it's a little big washer or bolt, whatever you want to call it, spinny thing. So as our 5-inch, we're gonna take our 6-inch and we're gonna place it back here, and this thing only goes on one way because the holes won't match up the other way, so it goes on like that. All right, and then you're gonna take your wheel thing and spin it back on here. All right, make sure that tightens up so it doesn't go anywhere. All right, then we're going to attach our 5-inch plate back underneath there where we just took the 6-inch one off. All right, so now we're going to take our 5-inch wheel set right here, and we're going to attach it underneath back where we just had the 6-inch. So you can see that there is 4 holes. There's 1, 2, 3, and then a 4th one. And this wheel set can only go one way, and the biggest wheel is the second to the front, so it's going to go like this. So like I said again, the second wheel is going to be at the front like this. So it'll only go one way because the holes will only line up one way. So we're going to set this back underneath here like so. Line up the hole, make sure there's 1 hole lined up, 2. All right, we're good. Take our bolt, throw this back in here. All right, like that. Get it decently tight with your fingers first. Head back here. Do the same thing with this other one. All right, like that. Then we're just gonna take our Allen key and tighten it up. There's 1. Come back here and tighten this one up. This one's a little trickier. Again, you have to use the Allen wrench straight up and down, vertical. All right, so that's tight, that's tight. Give it a good shake. Make sure it's not going anywhere. Then we're gonna move on to the next step. Right, so moving on. It's actually located in the same thing that we just worked on. So we're actually gonna move this big heavy piece of, I don't know what it is. It just has a bunch of wheels in the bottom that guide the gutter. So you can see that this thing actually has tracks back here. So it moves left and then down for the 5-inch position, and then moves up and right for the 6-inch position. So same thing over here. It goes up and then right. For 5-inch, what we're gonna be doing is moving it down, or left and down. And there's 4 bolts that you have to deattach to get to that. The 4 bolts that you're gonna be deattaching are this one right here, these 2. So 1, 2, all right? And then the other 2 you're gonna be deattaching are 1 back here and 2 back here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna set you guys up and show you how to loosen those up. All right, so with our camera set up, we are going to take our socket set right here, and we're gonna loosen up all of these, or these 2 bolts. So this one, again, this one, and this one. So take this, and that's tightening. Loosen this one up. All right, like so. And then loosen this one up. All right, like so. All right, so now we have these two bolts loose. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna loosen up our back two. So again, bolt 1, bolt 2. Second bolt. All right, so now that we got all 4 bolts loosened, I'm going to show you guys how we would actually move this into the proper position. All right, so now that we have all the bolts loosened, we're going ahead and move this down. So what you do is we're going to want to push this over. It's very heavy, so kind of lift it up and push it over, and you're going to see that's going to fall into place. And then we're going to come back here to our back one, same thing, lift it up, pop it down, and you'll feel that it's not really going to move much besides if you push it one way or the other. But if it's down on the way, you'll be able to push down on both sides. It's not going to go anywhere. You could see that it's in the proper place because these two things are now open right here. Same thing with the back. Back here, you can see that this is open right here, these two. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and we're going to tighten up these bolts. One, second one. All right, here's another tight. Come back here, throw last two. Okay, yeah, you can see that these are now down all the way. You put on this, make sure it's down all the way. You can see that these are open, 1, 2. So tighten the first bolt. You go back in first a little easier, but you can't. All right, one, now second one here. And make sure it's tight. Don't strip it. All right. So now that both of those two are on, we're going to move on to our next step. This is a little tricky to get to, but you can see because you can see these little knobs down here, okay? So we have right here, you can see back here there's a wheel. So there's one wheel, all right? One, then there's two, and then there's three, because wherever you see this peg down there, that's a wheel. So 1, 2 pegs, 3 pegs, 4. All right, then moving inside here, there's another one, 5. And in the end, there's another one down here. That's 6 right there. So 1, and I'm gonna show you guys this, see if you guys can see a little bit easier from back here. So we have 1 right here, one of these, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 is right next to it. All right, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to actually be moving these up a bit, and how we would do that, it's the same system as these. So you pull up on this and then you pull it up. So I'm going to see if I can set this camera up for any way so you guys can see what I'm talking about. All right, so I think this is the best view that I can get for you guys. So on the back, underneath here, there's the same thing. So a little knob that you're gonna pull up on. So you're gonna pull up on it, all right, and then you're gonna lift up this circle right here. So we're gonna pull up, and then, oh shit, this is really hard to get to from this angle. See if I can go underneath. There we go. Pull up, all right, and then we're gonna make sure this is not, so that didn't go, that didn't work. Make sure it's locked in place. So we're gonna push down on this. Push down, it's not gonna move. Push up, it's staying there. So you can see that it's now raised. So that's 1, all right? And again, that's located underneath here, all right? So that's right there, and you can see that it's raised up now compared to that one that's not, and it's on this same gadget. So right there. Then we're gonna move on to this one real quick. I'm not sure how good you guys can see this, so my apologies. But again, we're gonna pull up on this back pin, lift this up, lock it into place. Same thing with this one. Pull it up, pull it out, lock it in. All right, and then we're gonna move on to our next two. So 1, pull this up. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, move on to our 5th one. Show you guys that. So we have 1 that's lifted up, 2, 3, 4, and then we're gonna move on to our last 2. And our last 2 are again right there, and then right next to it, behind it. So, all right, so we got our 5th one right here. So we're gonna pull up on this, all right, and we're gonna lift this up. Like that, all right, so now you can see that one's raised. Then we'll move on to our 6th one right here. So pull this up. All right, and now you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 6th one is, or that's 5 right there, and that is 6. All right, so again, I know that's probably really hard to see, so if you're ever having issues with it, just ask your manager or ask me or ask anyone that knows how to work this machine, and they can show you it in person. All right, so now we are at the back of the machine. This is the last and final steps before we finish up. So there's just 2 things we got to do down here. You can see that there is a bolt here with yellow tape on it, and then there's a bolt here with yellow tape on it attached to these hooks. So right here, all right, and then right here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna loosen up this bolt and we're gonna push this in. We're gonna loosen up this bolt and we're gonna push this in. So they should meet at these 2 black markers, all right? So let's go ahead and do that. Right here, all right? Loosen this one up. All right, move this over all the way, all right? Grab your Allen key that you just dropped, and we're going to tighten this one up. Again, making sure that we're pushing on this thing to make sure these are tight. So go ahead, push that over, all right? Give it a good crank, give it one more, all right, like that. And then you can push on it, make sure it's not gonna go anywhere. Then you can see that it's at that black. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move this one over now. So loosen this one up. All right, push it over. Again, making sure we're pushing on this back plate. Tighten that down. All right, and now you can see that these are a lot closer in because the coil in the 5-inch is a lot less wider. So that's why we move those in. And then we're gonna move up here lastly to our cradle. And this is the last thing that needs to get done. So you can see here that there is 4 pins. There's 1 pin, there's 2 pins, there's 3 pins back here, and there's 4. So, and these all have separate holes. Now, these are in the closer ones because this is being pulled out as far as possible. So what we're going to do is, again, we're pushing everything in. So we're going to pull out this pin like so. All right, we'll actually pull out the pin down there. All right, like that. Then we're just going to pull this out and then simply push this in like that. Make sure that you line up these 2 holes so you can see that those are lined up down there. Insert your pin back into place. Push it through. Take your lock right here, all right, and push this. Again, take your lock right here. Push it back in. There's a little hole down there. Push it back in there, all right, like that. And then that's how you switch that. So we're going to do that for all 4 of them. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can see the difference between the 2 now. So again, the coil is less wide, so it's going to have to ride on these things. So again, take out the lock like that, pop this up, take this, push it through, make sure we're lined up there. All right, push this back through like so. Take your lock, and then just take it and push it back through here. All right, same thing with this one. Push it, pull your pin, push it over, back down. All right. Again, make sure we put our pin back in its lock hole, like that. All right, so it's not going to go anywhere. So there's 1, 2, 3 completed. Take out our pin, wherever it is, pull that out, push this over, push this back in. All right, and then put in the last lock. right there. All right, so now you can see that we have all 4 of these pushed in, and that is the complete switch over for the gutter machine. So now the only step we have left is to put our covers back on and then test our machine. I'm also going to be showing you guys how to load up the coil for the 5-inch, cutting it before you load it up, and then getting the machine ran through so you can run your gutter when you get to the next job. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to show you guys how we're going to place those covers back on here. And the reason why we do that is just because I don't want people dropping tools in between here. Otherwise, I would leave this off. I know it looks kind of cool, but it can get very damaged if a screw drops in there in between one of the chains or anything really. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put those back on. Alright guys, so that is it for the switchover on the gutter machine. We switched it from 6-inch to 5-inch. So if you need to switch it from 5-inch to 6-inch, you do everything the exact opposite. If you ever have questions about how to do something or how to switch it over, don't ever be hesitant to ask me or your manager or anyone who knows how to operate and switch this machine over. It seems like a very complicated process and it seems like there's a lot of steps, but once you do it 1 or 2 times, I promise you aren't going to have to watch this video. It's just, it makes sense once you do it a few times. You're basically just pushing everything closer in and smallering everything. And then whenever you do it for 6-inch, you're making it bigger. So that about wraps up the video for the switchover. In this next clip or the next video, we're going to be going over how you would load up the coil and operate the machine. All right, so we'll see you guys in the next video. So before arriving to a job, there's a few key details that need to be taken care of before you guys actually get to the job, as well as when you get directly to the job. So we're gonna go over those steps in this video. The first step is that you wanna make sure the machine is switched over either the night before or the morning of. And what I mean by that is I don't want to show up on a job and we have a 6-inch installation and the machine is still set up from a 5-inch from the day previously. So whoever is managing that job or managing that crew or the company needs to assure that the machine is switched over either the morning of or the night before, because like I said, it's never good when you have a crew of 4 or 5 guys sitting there for 45 minutes watching one person switch this machine over. So that is the one thing that you're going to make sure you do. The second thing is whenever you arrive to the job, you're going to want to oil the blade for the guillotine. I'm going to show you guys how to do that now. All right, so you could see here that this says oil blade daily. So every time that we use a job or that we have a job, just do this real quick. So we can see here we have our guillotine handle. We're going to drop this down a bit, all right? And you can see that you have your faceplate right there, okay? So we're going to hold this open. You can hold it with your left hand and your other hand. I'm holding the camera, so you can't do that, but I'm going to hold this up like this. I'm just going to give it a quick spray in here, quick spray in there, all right? Then I'm going to let it drop. Same thing, spray in there, and then spray in there. Give this a few turns like this. Make sure that the oil, the WD-40, actually gets, you know, all through all those parts, all right? And then we're just gonna leave it up like that. Take your WD-40 and we're gonna put it back where it goes in our position right over here. And that is about it for prepping the machine. Like I said, make sure that it gets switched over the day before, and then also make sure that you oil that blade every time we start a